everyone could please try and mute their microphones until such time as they are speaking. We're going to try to figure out how exactly to call on folks. You can shoot me a text if you're a member of the assembly, or you can use the chat function here, I believe. Desiree, will that, let's see. How does one, oh yeah, so for those of you who are using Microsoft Teams, you can see on the left-hand side, there's a chat function there.
So if you hover in the middle, if you're using Teams, if you hover in the middle of the screen, you should see a bar that has like your camera and your microphone, a couple of dots. There's a little conversation bubble and people. You can see participants looking at the people. And if you click on the conversation bubble, you'll pull up the little chat log and you can enter, I guess, questions from there.
Great. And then for my colleagues on the assembly, if for some reason you're not getting a response through chat, or if you're on the phone and you're texting me, of course, just feel free to speak up. Desiree, could we start with a roll call just to get a sense of who is here from the assembly?
Yes. I also have most everybody on mute, so please be mindful to unmute yourself when you're responding. Mr. Constant. I see Chris is on Teams and he was just on.
Yeah, I can see him.
Mr. Dyson, are you here? You might have to unmute yourself, in which case you'll push *6. Okay, we'll move on. Miss Kennedy?
Here.
Perfect. Miss LaFrance?
Miss LaFrance was excused. I don't know if she called in anyway, but she told me she wasn't feeling well.
Okay. Mr. Perez-Verdia? Mr. Peterson?
Virtually present.
Perfect. Miss Quinn Davidson?
I'm here. Hi, everyone.
Hello. Mr. Rivera?
Present.
Perfect. Miss Zalatel? I see Meg on the queue also, but...
I'm here. I just stepped away for a second.
Okay, hi, Chris. Mr. Dunbar?
Here.
Oh, there's Meg. Okay, there's Miss Zalatel. Mr. Dunbar? You were just on.
Here.
Mr. Weddleton?
Here.
Okay, so we've got everybody but Mr. Dyson and Miss LaFrance and Mr. Perez-Verdia.
Okay, thank you. Well, of course, this is a work session, not an official assembly meeting, so that was more just to test out if we're able to do this. There are 2 work sessions scheduled for today, this one and then another one at 1 o'clock, where we hope to have the resolution presented by the administration to justify the extension of the emergency declaration. One other note before we get started. Thank you, Mr. Weddleton, for providing us all masks. Mine unfortunately broke because I have an oddly shaped head, but I was able to get another one. I'm going to ask that everyone present in the assembly chambers on the 14th use a cloth mask. This is both to protect us and the public, but more importantly, I think to model what is now the recommended practice in public. Cloth masks don't protect you, but they protect other people around you, particularly if you're asymptomatic. And cloth masks combined with frequent hand washing has been shown to significantly reduce the spread of the disease. So again, we'll have an email about this later in the day. If you don't have a cloth mask, I have a friend that is making them, as I'm sure many of us do, and I can get you one or several, and we'll get some for the staff too. We have basically an infinite supply. So with that, I would like to turn it over to Mr. Schutte, who I believe has a presentation regarding homelessness and the response to COVID-19. Chris?
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Thank you. This is going to be a hopefully successful technology experiment. I will be speaking, but I also will be showing slides. So I'm going to turn on my screen right now, and hopefully this works as intended. Can everybody see the slideshow?
Yes.
Excellent. Let's continue then. So good morning. Nancy Burke is on the line. Robin Ward should be on the line as well. And we are going to give you an update on the various homelessness initiatives happening across the municipality right now. We're going to start with some some key terms and definitions that lay the groundwork for what we're going to talk about today. Many of you have seen these because I try to insert them in multiple updates so that we all are using the same nomenclature, but just briefly, these are some of the key terms that I want you to remember as we get through some of the slides today. Obviously, we're going to talk about 19 response efforts that are underway with the mass shelter and the mass isolation quarantine. But we'll also talk on broader homelessness issues throughout the presentation. So moving ahead, first update is on the Boakey-Sullivan Mass Shelter. Most of you are familiar with it. It is a 480-bed max capacity facility, actually 2 facilities technically, that was established in light of the CDC guidance about separation distance between sleepers in congregate living or homeless shelters. They have 24/7 Phoenix security on premise. They've got 24/7 Securitas security for the perimeter and the surrounding neighborhood. And recently, we've also added Anchorage Downtown Partnership ambassadors to help with cleaning up perimeter areas, and also with some outreach stations set up and tear down. We'll cover that a little bit later.
Chris, this is Crystal Kennedy. Mr. Chair, can I interrupt for a minute? I lost the screen on Chris's slideshow. I don't know if that's on my end or his end, but all I have is a nice little picture of Chris in the middle here.
I can still see it, so that probably is on your end. Desiree, are you able to explain what happened there?
I'm not really sure, Crystal. I can see Chris's presentation just fine.
Yeah, it just kind of went off, and all I have is the picture of, kind of like a still picture of Chris with Anchorage in the background. Nice picture, but anyway. Any suggestions on how to
Chris,
get back
could you
to
email
I
the
didn't
presentation?
touch anything.
This is Kate Vogel, and the same thing happened to me. It was showing up, and then it was replaced by Chris's picture.
That's bizarre. This is Austin, and I can see it just fine, the presentation.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Well, I'm on my iPad.
While
Chris,
they're figuring
try to
that out,
reshare.
could you let us know? I wasn't here, I think, when you asked us to turn our video off. In my mind, that's one of the big benefits to using Teams, is to be able to see each other. Can you talk briefly about why we shouldn't do that?
This is Desiree. So we just asked people to turn their video off just because it's, once you have so many people on the meeting, it kind of glitches and lags a little bit.
So in general, we won't be using video at all on Teams for all of our meetings?
I think in this case, just for this one meeting, because we have so many attendees, probably not. Plus Chris is doing the presentation. But in our other meetings, it'll probably be a little bit less attended. So I think video would be okay.
Okay, thanks.
But Mr. Schutte, do you want to try to reshare your presentation and see if that fixes the issue for Ms. Kennedy?
happy to do that.
Thank you.
And I also went ahead and turned off my video just in case there was some lag with that. Anyway, but I still just have the still picture. So.
Okay, and I also have a request to email the presentation out, which I can't do while I'm running it, but we'll happily do afterwards. So let me try and share again. And let me know if, are people seeing my screen now?
Yes.
Outstanding.
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
Go ahead, Chris.
So, mobilizing the mask makers, the challenge that they've been facing is cloth, actually getting fabric. That's the hardest part for them, all the elements. Have we contemplated an effort to bulk purchase material for mask makers?
I haven't. The number.
Mr. Schutte.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about our effort. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, he has here on the slide mobilizing the mask makers resources, and so I'm finding the state just put out a solicitation, $40,000 to support mask making. I'm wondering if we've done anything because it's the cloth that is, and the stitching, the needles, the thread. Bulk purchase.
Yeah, so through the chair, thank you for reading ahead. Yes, mobilizing the mask makers. It's a volunteer effort at the moment in the Anchorage Bowl. They are producing masks. They are being inundated with requests from institutions, including us, to provide them some relief. I don't know the extent of bulk purchases of cloth, et cetera. I'm adding that to my list of questions to follow up on, which I have a feeling there will be many throughout this presentation.
Yeah, so it's cloth and all the supplies. So just
yeah. But I can say that the process right now, which I am so impressed with the way that these mask makers have mobilized. But the way that the process unfolds now is they are taking the cloth that they have or purchased, they are creating masks, and then they are being delivered for mass launder services. All of the masks have to be washed and dried before they could be used. And the masks are particularly challenging to wash and dry because they're very small and they have strings attached. And so they require like a mesh undergarment bag when you put them in a washer to keep them from getting tangled up in the spindles. But that being said, we have a laundry services contract already with Snow White Cleaners that's mobilized to help with this effort. The Alaska Club is apparently being approached to mobilize their massive laundry facilities as well. And I think this is forthcoming. But I will ask the question about municipal assistance, bulk purchase, et cetera, to see if that's something in the works. So as you read on this slide, we're looking at some of the potential needs for the Boakey Sullivan Mass Shelter. With the guidance coming out of the state, masks is going to become a priority, and we're trying to mobilize both the existing inventory and the mask makers. We continue to have a need for community donations that support the shampoo and shower facilities as well as bedding supplies. We've had great support thus far from hotels and others donating shampoo. Fred Meyer, I believe, has as well. And we have a single point of contact for gathering those donations out of the EOC that I'm happy to share with the group afterwards if you have people in your network that you think could also achieve those donations. And then lastly, Beans has hired some service navigators that are designed to help move people from the shelter. And I think that will be a continuing need as well. Shelter usage. So one of the things that has been interesting in watching the numbers, many of you, hopefully all of you, are familiar with the homeless dashboards that we produce. If not, they are a new resource, or not a new resource, but they are a resource that are available through the municipalities' GIS resources. We are seeing, based on the dashboard reports, that the shelter usage is going in an interesting direction. So you're seeing the two columns there, March 9 versus April 9, and look at how many people were at existing shelters versus how many have congregated now into the Ben Boakey Sullivan Arena. This is interesting. Part of it is an artifact of the other shelters needing to accommodate the CDC guidance on the separation between sleepers. Part of it is probably a little bit of a shift to the larger facility, since that's also where the meals are provided. The total number, as you can see, is a decrease. So that's also a concern, is where are those other people going?
Hey, Chris.
But right now there's a priority to try and rebalance the shelters so that we don't have an influx into Sullivan only, and the other shelters are not being utilized to capacity.
Chris,
Sorry, I heard a question.
Yeah, I have a question for you from Ms. Zolotel.
Thank you. So on the previous slide, sorry, I couldn't get all the buttons fast enough. You'd mentioned that Beans Cafe has hired service navigators to help move people from shelter. I'd like to know a little bit more about that, because I think it's been this question of what additional resources have come online to support people who would be moving from shelter, because my understanding is we actually have service provider constraints right now if they're in need of permanent supportive housing, or is this more like rapid rehousing? If I could just like a little bit more information. Thanks.
Sure. And Nancy Burke is on the line. We have more extensive slides just a little bit later in the presentation that dive into some of those services that are coming online, if you want to wait till then. Or Nancy, if you think you'd like to address that now.
I can wait, that's fine.
Okay, this is Nancy, that's fine with me.
Okay, then we'll get to that in a little bit here. So I will move off of this.
Hey, Chris?
Yes. Yes.
When you have a slide like that with a lot of numbers, one of our members asked if you could please read the numbers, because they can't see the slides.
Oh, yes. I'm so sorry. I forgot
online.
that there are people just on the phone. Yes.
Yep.
So let me just give a quick overview.
I've gotten all of that. No, the attachment didn't come through on the last 2 emails from her. So I just need to look at the Word document.
Crystal, I think you're off of mute.
Okay. If you send me the Word document.
Okay. Thank you. For those who are following along on the phone, I apologize. The slide that we are looking at is a chart that lists each of the homeless shelters and then has 2 columns next to each shelter, which are shelter occupancies as measured on March 9th of this year and measured on April 9th of this year. And what we are seeing is, I'll single out the Brother Francis shelter, the BFS line. March 9th, they reported a population of 219 clients. April 9th, they are reporting a population of 83 clients. So that shift, or that reduction, is happening across the board at all of the current shelters. Obviously, the Beans Cafe / Ben Boeke Sullivan Arena shelter is the shelter that's increasing, and we think absorbing a lot of those decreases at the other shelters across the bowl. However, we know that Ben Boeke Sullivan Arena is only a short-term shelter designed to get us through the COVID-19 pandemic. So looking ahead, a priority is going to be rebalancing the population spread so that those who are still in a shelter system are appropriately rebalanced out to the other shelters. So sorry about that. I forgot people aren't all looking at the screen.
Wait, please don't proceed. Go back to that slide.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chair, if I might.
Yeah, go ahead.
So the numbers at BFS from 219 down to 83, I understood that they aren't serving the general homeless population. Isn't that number down because they're actually serving a different demographic?
So the way I understand it, and I may get some of the terminology wrong, Assemblymember Constant, the Brother Francis shelter now is focused primarily on individuals with high needs, so individuals who are medically disabled, etc. The Ben Boeke and Sullivan Arena shelter is not ADA friendly, so individuals who have mobility issues, for example, there is a priority placed on keeping them in the Brother Francis shelter.
So The gist, though, is I thought they aren't taking general homeless individuals. They're only taking the people who are medically challenged or otherwise vulnerable in a way that they can't use the other place. Is that a wrong assumption?
Chris,
This is Lisa Aquino from Catholic Social Services. Would you like me to try to explain it?
Mr. Chair, yes.
Yeah, go ahead. Please do.
Sure. So at Brother Francis Shelter, we now have a reduced capacity. So we used to have a capacity of 240. Now our capacity is closer to 116 at the very most, so that we can assure 6 feet between people. Of that population, there's a percentage of that population, a small percentage that we have as what we call in-house volunteers to help keep our shelter, because we've stepped up and to make sure every surface is cleaned continually. So we have some people to help, but the majority of the people using the shelter are people who are not able to navigate the stairs at Sullivan Arena or the access issues at Ben Boki. So they're largely folks that are using a wheelchair, a walker, or a cane. We are working with Beans Cafe as they operate the mass shelter to get referrals from them of people to move to our shelter, and we have people moving in regularly. But we are under capacity, and so we're working hard to try to see if there's more people that we can bring over that need that kind of level of care.
Right. Okay. So the gist is, in order to come in, those beds are being reserved for people who are medically challenged or have other needs that can't be met at the larger shelter. So it's not quite square to suggest that that's down because the other place is up. It's just a different set of people.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Meg, you have a question?
Thank you. What is the access issue at Ben Boki and Sullivan? Is it simply just physical access with regard to stairs, or what are we looking at?
Yeah, you've nailed it. So, for example, if you saw the slide earlier where I showed the Boki Arena 1, where the cots are laid out, that actually requires you to step down into the rink. And I think it's about a 5-inch drop. So there are certain parts of the facility as we've configured it that are challenging for mobility impaired individuals.
Have we considered something like portable ramps if width is not an issue? And then are the restrooms otherwise accessible?
Yes to both. We have considered ramps, but there still will be parts of the Sullivan, for example, that are stair-based that we just can't ramp.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. You want to continue with the presentation, Chris?
Sure, happy to. And I'll also add, you heard Lisa Aquino chime in. Kim Koval's on the line too, so if you dive into Bean's specific stuff that I don't know, like she can chime in. We have received questions from assembly members, and this is certainly one of the areas where Kim might chime in, but we've received questions from assembly members asking about the trespasses that have occurred during the operation down at the Boki Sullivan. And Kim provided these numbers to us yesterday. It's been 74 trespasses, the majority of which it sounds like happened during the initial week of operations. There's a variety of reasons for an individual to be trespassed from the Beans Cafe or the Ben Boki Ben Boki Sullivan Arena mass shelter. The list on the screen: drugs, alcohol, assault, theft, the usual sorts of items that would lead to someone being trespassed. The good neighbor policy on the right is something that Beans has posted. I provided that by way of reference. What happens to clients who are ejected? This is obviously a tough population to work with. It's a group that the outreach specialists are working with individually. Of that group, some are eligible for mental health services, others just require individual attention. Some are associated with drug dealers. Most of them, as you can imagine, don't really like the attention and don't want to engage. So it is a resource-heavy outreach effort requiring APD. Brother Francis, and Lisa, you can speak to this. Brother Francis reports reduced numbers. Right now, they have nearly 0 trespassed under the current operation. Beans will keep a list of the individuals who are being trespassed. Right now, there's not a lot of names on it because the location has changed. In other words, when they were trespassing individuals from the previous shelter location on 3rd Avenue, that was the address that was tied to the official trespass action. Now they've moved, so we're in a new place. We've got new trespass actions to process with a new address, and so that list is forthcoming. If I may, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask Kim Koval to chime in on anything that was missed about the trespasses and the policies.
Okay, and then after that, we've got a question from Mr. Constant.
Go ahead, Kim, if you've got anything.
Are you able to hear me now?
Hear you now.
Okay. No, you're accurate in the list of what you listed out, and I'm happy to answer questions.
Okay, Mr. Constant.
All right, here we go. So this is the reason I called for this